Hello, hello, everybody. My name is Kristen. Welcome to today's in session. We're going to be focused on DAWs, which are digital audio workstations. We're going to discuss the best ones for recording at home, as we all are trying to do. And I'm beyond excited to be joined by our panelists, Sonia Herrero and Loudon Stearns. Let's start with you, Loudon. Share a bit with the audience about who you are and your preferred gender pronouns.
Hi there. I'm Loudon Stearns. He, him, his is my pronouns. And I am a professor at Berklee College of Music, and I'm actually just about to move to New York City to start a new graduate program for Berklee in the famed Power Station Studios. I'm really happy to be here and talking about DAWs. I'm going to be looking mostly at Pro Tools, but I have a lot of experience in all of them. I teach Ableton Live, Pro Tools, and Logic Pro quite extensively. So I'm happy to talk about the benefits of each and yeah, share whatever I can.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Loudon.
For
We'll
sure.
also be joined by Sonia a bit later, guys, so I'll have her introduce herself when she jumps back on. But thanks for the shout out. Thanks for the compliments on the glasses. Appreciate that. So yeah, we have an incredible panel ready for you all. We're gonna be covering those topics related to DAWs for the first 45 minutes, and then we'll leave some time at the end for open Q&A. So that leads me into a few housekeeping items to cover before we jump into all of this amazing information. So the first thing is going to be, this is a supportive and uplifting space. So we just want to keep that in mind as we get into the discussion, as we're in the chat, all those great things. Also, please, please, please feel free to jump in the chat. Let us know where you're tuning in from, but make sure that you change that little blue bar from panelists to panelists and attendees so we can all join in on these conversations. So you can let all of us know how you're feeling about these subjects, and yeah, let us know where you're tuning in from. Also, if you have questions, like I said, at the end, the last 15 minutes, we're going to be jumping into the questions that you all have. So there's a function at the bottom of your screen for Q&A. Be sure to drop your questions in there and not in the chat so that it doesn't get lost in all of the conversations that will be happening in there. And then we'll do our best to get to all the questions that are submitted. And at the end, you should receive a short survey just to let us know how you felt about this in session and any other topics that you all want us to cover. So I am done with my spiel.
That was good.
And thanks, Loudon. I appreciate that. So we're just going to kind of jump into it. So what is a DAW? For anyone who doesn't know, what is a DAW? What is a DAW? And which ones, well, you already told us a bit, but which ones
Mhm.
have you worked with?
So a DAW is a digital audio workstation. I think the fundamental thing is it allows you to imitate what a 24 track tape machine would be. I can record many tracks of audio data, which is maybe a recording of my microphone here. So I can layer them and change the levels of them individually later. And contemporary DAWs, going beyond what a tape machine would give us, I can also add in MIDI data. And MIDI data, it's like something from a keyboard like this. It's not real sound. It's just a set of instructions. I think of it like a real-time musical score. It's just instructions like this is middle C, now play D kind of quiet, now play A really loud, right? And so we have these two main types of data, MIDI and audio, and all contemporary DAWs allow you to put in tracks for either one of those and mix them later and make them sound great with each other later. And so every DAW has these same functions, but they all have different things that they're really good at, often based on what they started at. And Pro Tools, the one I was going to talk about, started out as a studio tool, totally focused on audio. And so its origins was all about recording audio. And so though it has MIDI now, its really origins is that, and that's what it's best at. Which is different than Logic, which started out as a sequencer, which means it was just MIDI when it started, and it added audio later. And so it's really great at the MIDI stuff, still great at audio, but it was kind of added later. So sometimes the history of the DAWs helps in understanding why I might choose one or the other.
Wow. I mean, listen, I just want to sign up for a class at this point because I learned so much in the first like 5 minutes of you talking.
Oh, that's great.
Um, yeah, and that kind of like goes right into my next question. You started talking a bit about it, but do you find that there are specific DAWs that work best for like specific musical tasks or genres that you're kind of into?
Yeah, I think one of the big distinctions for choosing a DAW is how big is your team. Like, how many people are you going to work with? And so Pro Tools is really, really the standard. I mean, the term pro, it's the standard for like big teams working together. So like a whole movie, we're putting together a whole movie and we have a team doing music and another team doing dialogue and a team doing Foley, which is all the sound effects. Pro Tools is really great in those kind of situations. But if you have a piece of software that can do all that, it means it has to be super complex. It means that it's just difficult, you know? Now, Logic is designed for a person by themselves creating music without all the other people. So it's totally based on you. And so because of that, it tends to just work immediately if you're by yourself, because that's what it's kind of based on.
I love that. Awesome. And as far as like genres, like if I'm like an electronic musician and I want to create music just really, with no live instruments outside of my voice per se. Let's go with that one. Is there a DAW that works best for that versus if I play the guitar or the drums or some sort of live instrument along with my voice? Is there one that lends itself better or more?
Yeah, I mean, there's also the how much money do you want to spend? I mean, all
True.
the, it's all the, so a lot of that question for me comes down to what kind of software instruments do you want? Like what kind of MIDI instruments? And so
Mm,
if it's just something that can just record your voice and you want to record voice and guitar and make demos like that, which is like treating it like a tape machine, I think they're all kind of the same. And I would go for something that is easier to use. I just like GarageBand and an Apple computer would be amazing in that kind of situation. When we start talking about wanting to bring in like electronic instruments, like bring in MIDI drums or bring in like loops, some of the DAWs just have more stuff. And I
mm,
think in that situation where you want to like just create electronic music, Logic is an amazing choice. It's for the low cost. What you get for the cost is stunning, particularly with all the libraries it has. So that's kind of I think one-stop shop, just getting started. Logic Pro is kind of amazing, but you'll reach the limits when you want to work with bigger teams.
ah, thank you. Thank you. I mean, you're just like hitting all of my questions and it's so wonderful. So anybody who's just starting out, don't know where to start, you're just trying to get your feet wet, just trying to make something. Um, Logic is the way to go.
I think it's great.
Get
And
your feet
honestly,
wet. Yeah.
GarageBand built into the Mac, the cool thing is it is really Logic under the hood. And so if you get started in
True.
GarageBand, I think my big advice is make the most of the simple tool. And then when you start hitting the edges of it, move up. And I think
Mm,
GarageBand is an amazing starting point. Eventually, you'll be frustrated by it. It won't do what you want it to do, and that is the point to move to the next one. And you did mention a genre, but I think there's another thing about DAWs is what about using a DAW on stage? What about actually performing with it? Because a lot of people doing this, eventually they'll be like, I've been recording. I want to perform this thing for people, how to do that. And I think the best tool for that is going to be Ableton Live. It's really,
mm.
even the term live, it's based on that workflow about performing in real time and making in real time. And I think that's where Ableton Live really shines.
Yeah, I love Ableton. I use
Oh yeah,
Ableton.
that's
um,
my it's my
and
most fun.
GarageBand and
It's my most fun space. I have so much fun in Ableton. It's always open. It's just a blast.
yeah, absolutely. That's incredible. Yeah, I love that. And a lot of artists are like, okay, I've done all this work and I don't have a bunch of musicians to pull from. How can I use this software live? And that is a very, very necessary tool
Yeah, for
right
sure.
now, for sure. Do you happen to know any of the price points of those? I know you were saying Logic is probably like the most cost effective, but is there like a range that you can
Yeah,
give?
one of the nice things is that pretty much all these softwares have a free version, right? So I would consider GarageBand kind of being the free version of Logic, and you can upgrade from there. If you go on Ableton's site, there's a number of levels, including their intro, which is, I believe, totally free, and you can grab that. And then Pro Tools also has a free version, and I would start with every one of those and then move on. Um, in the Ableton range of things, I'd have to look at the website. I'm sorry, I don't have that on my right away here. But with the Ableton, what you're getting as you're moving up through the levels is more instruments. And so the low level and all of these can give you all the recording tools you need. They all have great student discounts. I'm sure a lot of your the audience here are students, and so definitely take advantage of the student discounts on all of them. It's pretty easy to find out the pricing. I find that more difficult pricing is through Pro Tools. It's harder to figure out exactly what you're getting, and it tends to be a subscription model now, which is I find a little frustrating, but also it keeps
Mm-hmm.
it updated, and I see why they're moving in that direction.
Awesome. Yeah, and that yeah, we also had a question come through a little earlier regarding, the Pro Tools subscription. And, do you find that there's any advantages to signing up for the monthly subscription over just buying the software outright?
Um, Currently, I really like the subscription models for all software, and that's people disagree with me heavily. I think there's a history of wanting to like own a piece of hardware, and you kind of take that model, but software is fundamentally different. The honest truth is, software has always been a subscription.
That's
I could
very
keep
true.
buying Pro Tools over again for the updates. It's always been that way. Um, and the cool thing about a subscription model is it stays updated for you, right? So it's
Yeah,
like if you have a subscription model, you're always getting the latest update, and you're maintaining that. I honestly find it easier to budget for in my life too, because I know this
that
is
makes
going to
sense.
be $1,000 a year, whatever the number is. I don't want to throw out a number and be wrong. $100 a year. I'm thinking all my software. It's obscene how much I have to spend on software. But if it is, if I know what it's going to be per year, it's easier than saying, I don't know
To
when the
budget
next
it
time I'm
in.
going to have to buy Pro Tools is. And then it's like, oh no, now it's a big thing that just happens randomly. At least with a subscription, it's going to be expensive, but I can budget for it. Same thing with like the Adobe stuff. I just know what it's going to be, so I can be ready for it.
That makes total sense because it's nothing worse than like wanting to like sit down to your computer and then you have to you have to update or buy something else versus being able to budget it in and put it in your calendar like this day it's going to update. I'm going to have the newest version. Absolutely. Do you, oh, last question on this particular topic, but do you find that there are like your hardware when you purchase like your MIDI controller or anything that you're working with, as these updates continue to come out, have you found that some of your hardware now isn't really working as well or in
Yeah,
collaboration with the software since it's being updated so much?
it's a constant challenge. My big advice there is if something plugs directly into a computer, you're going to have to you're going to have to update it when that port changes, because the ports are going to constantly change. On the other side of things, there are things that don't plug into computers that last for a very long time. Like we're just doing like the Power Station studio. We're just renovated this entire studio, and there are microphone preamps, there are consoles that are 40 years old. And the crazy thing is, the so I would suggest spending less money on the things that plug directly into the computer. I want to make like the audio interface is like the big choice. What am I going to get for an audio interface? I suggest getting simple, cheap audio interfaces, because you're going to have to replace them. It's what it's going to be. If it has a computer port on it, it's going to be replaced. But like a microphone preamp or a microphone itself, mic stands, cables, that's where you want to get the premium stuff, because those things can last forever. And honestly, things like a microphone preamp might be a $3,000 purchase, but you'll always be able to resell it for that same cost, right? These like the
Ah,
and so it's free. You're just borrowing this thing, So if you can spend a little bit of money, you can do well. Often the more expensive thing is actually cheaper, is the point, because you can always sell it for the same, which is it's a tough thing to shell out, but it's the way to do it, I think.
for sure. But that's a great perspective because, you think you need top of the line everything. So to know exactly kind of what makes the difference and what will last over time versus kind of what is new, flashy, nice, and then 2 years from now, the plug will be different. You can't use it anymore. Or like me, you have a bunch of like converters and this and that.
Oh,
It's totally a thing. Absolutely. So
the one
thank
thing
you.
one thing I would say, which is actually people miss, which is huge. You worry about the microphone and the interface. You'll get more benefit just getting into a closet and getting the acoustics of your room right when you're recording audio.
Mm,
Like the acoustics of the room matter far more than the microphone you're using. And that's easy. That's just open a closet and put some duvets around things and deaden the room, and you'll get so much better recording. Doesn't matter what microphone it is.
Absolutely. Love that. So we're just going to jump right into the recording, creation, editing techniques in a particular DAW. So what tips can you share for setting up a session, or what should be top of mind? Like when you open up your computer, open up that session, what should you do first?
So I've been
Loaded question.
I've been on this practice of just trying to create a lot. That's been my like big focus in life right now. And it's highlighted, like, if you want a life making music, you have to be organized.
Mhm.
And I think one of the big things I've noticed in like making every day is that if I can get the organization right and get a system that works for me on that side of things, then I can just spend more time doing the things I love, which is making music and creating. So I think it's worth, in whatever DAW you have, to really think about file structure, as lame as it is, and think about, where you put things on your hard drive, and then how you organize your session. And if you can get good at things like naming tracks and adding colors and that sort of thing, it makes the whole process move smoothly, and you can just focus on being in flow and making music. So I would take the time to really figure out markers, colors, track names, file systems. That's my first thing I'm thinking of.
Awesome. Get organized.
Get
Do you
organized.
do you have a template that you use, or do you recommend kind of setting up a template? So, if you're a vocalist and you have all of your presets and everything kind of loaded in, would that be helpful?
I love the idea of a template, but I wouldn't sit down to make a template. My advice is, look back through all the music you've made, all the sessions you have, and find the best one. That's your template. Start with
Mm.
some you've already done the work, right? So it's a matter of going back. I loved how my voice sounded in that thing. Okay, go back to that session, delete all the audio MIDI data, and now you have your template, right? And that's your piece. And then you start from then over and on. I think that's an amazing advice, Kristen. I think absolutely we should be working from a template. The other reason that's awesome is it establishes your sound as a producer.
Mm.
Like, how do,
Hmm.
like, if I'm playing bass every day, it's like my bass is my sound. Everyone knows me and my sound on my bass. If I'm starting a new session every time and reinventing myself every time, how does everyone going to know what I sound like? So the idea of using that same template over and over is a fantastic
Wow, I love that. I already can't wait to rewatch this recording when it's up on YouTube and take notes because, man, I tell my wife all the time, I'm like, listen, by the time I set everything up, find the sounds that I want,
idea.
like get started, I have to break everything back down and like go work on something else. So absolutely, starting with what you already have, what you love, empty out the metadata, I mean the MIDI data, and boom,
You're
start a new
there.
song. You got your sounds. Absolutely
Oh my
love
God.
that.
Logic just added a new amazing function for this. So I know I'm not supposed to be talking about Logic. That's not my, but
Oh, no.
there's in the tracks, it's a new function. So all the DAWs, they all are copying each other, right? They find the best thing here, and then we add it over here. So Ableton Live had this cool like clip launching system for performing live. Now Logic just added that in. And it's this
Wow.
cool thing on the, I forget what they call it, it's like live clips or something. But what it can function as is just a whole bank of like all your favorite kick drums, just sitting over there
Mhm.
waiting, and you put in your template so you can just drag them out and just sitting there for you, all your favorite snares. It's amazing. Everyone got to check that out. If you're using Logic, the new function, it is for like live playback, but it also is just a great storage space for your favorite stuff.
Yes, you just gave us a hack, a logic hack. We love the hacks, multi-use. So we had Sonia join. Hello, hello, Sonia. So glad you're back.
Hi, Sonia.
If you're cool and down, would you like to share a little bit about yourself with the audience and your preferred gender pronouns?
Sure. Yeah, I'm Sonia Herrero. I am she, her. And I've been doing a lot of recording, of course, over the quarantine, live streaming, teaching, and it's been not too much of a transition, I want to say, because I feel like I had been doing that before the quarantine. So it's been more just like making, like, just learning more, getting better at like mastering music these days, and then working and then sort of guiding other vocalists and learning how to work remotely with artists across countries or just like within, I'm working with a singer right now in Alexandria, not too far from me, but we probably shouldn't be in the same studio. So then just like working on how to, I think it's a great learning experience for me to teach other singers how to record themselves at home, actually, so that they can be independent when they're doing this stuff at home. Yeah.
Yes, a beautiful skill to share. We appreciate you
Yeah.
for for gifting that knowledge, because you're absolutely right. Even if you're working with someone else, it's just great to be able to create something that you're proud of at home than to, build upon it with other people and send it around for your incredible musician friends to add their magic to.
Right.
Love that. Awesome. Yeah, so we're just going to continue with our conversation. The very next question that we had was, do you feel that there's a DAW that's easiest to get down ideas really quick, or continue like building on a concept that you already have? And are there any like techniques or shortcuts that help streamline this process?
Yeah,
And you
well,
can, either of you can, yeah.
right. Yeah, well, I've been using mostly Ableton because, first of all, it's the easiest for, and GarageBand. I have been using GarageBand too. I want to say GarageBand is a lot more straightforward because they give you the visual layout is so helpful. They give you layers, you have access to your MIDI instruments right there, and there's not a lot in terms of routing that you have to do, and a bunch of steps to arm your records for each track. Whereas with Ableton, there's a little bit more steps, and then Pro Tools, I feel like, is like a little more advanced, and it's also more of a financial investment. But I want to say GarageBand, if you have a MacBook Pro or if you're an Apple user, it's more like you're financially better off there. But then of course you have to be like a Mac user. But then even if you're not, it's not as expensive as Ableton. So I would say the most beginner level, it would be GarageBand. And I want to, like, a lot of people do talk about Fruity Loops and Audacity, and those are bare bones. I think you can get Fruity Loops for free. I haven't used it on my own, but I've heard that that's also a good starting point. And I've seen their visual layout, and it's a lot of, you can do a lot of MIDI instrumentals on there if you want to be a music producer. But if you want to record, I'm not sure what the learning curve is for Fruity Loops. Yeah, but I'm going to say Ableton and GarageBand, definitely.
Awesome. Love that.
Fruity Loops, I have lots of experience with Fruity Loops. It can do everything. It's kind of amazing. Okay. But it's the language and the layout is so different from all the other DAWs. Okay. That it's hard, when people talk about like buses and aux tracks, these things that we're really used to in things like Pro Tools and Ableton and GarageBand, that language is hard to translate into what Fruity Loops has. So it can do everything, but you're kind of in that ecosystem. And it's very much, I found Fruity Loops is very much electronic music, EDM kind of focused, and sound design explorative. It's amazing. The other shout out I'd give to is Studio One. It's an amazing DAW, not expensive, and for PC users, it can be a fantastic place to work in.
Awesome. That sounds great. And even what you guys were just talking about, like Fruity Loops being more for production, if I am an artist, like we talked about a little earlier, Loudon, with, beat production being my focus or live instruments being my focus, do you find one is easier to manipulate these particular, I guess, files or sound bites? Like which one kind of lends itself more to beat production and which one kind of lends itself more to manipulating live instruments and live sounds?
Well, I can just say Pro Tools was built, I want to say it kind of has to do with when these products were made. Like Pro Tools was built in the 80s, and it was very much just built for instrumental recording. So I want to say that Pro Tools outdoes all the DAWs for instrumental recording. And you have like so much control of your input details, and then you have control of your output details. When I say that, I just mean audio formats, like you're doing WAV, like just basic ones are WAV and MP3. I think everyone's heard of WAV versus MP3, but there's also different ones. There's all these other terms. And but Pro Tools is just so sculpted because it was evolved during the time of when we were doing analog recordings in the 80s. And then Ableton is so much music producer based, more digital samples and sculpting sounds with that. I'm not sure if Pro Tools early on was like, oh, let's do pitch up, let's do auto tune. You know, they weren't thinking in those terms, but later on in time, I think, yeah, we were playing with more manipulation of sound way more often.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's a great way to. I love that. We were saying that. I said we were saying some of the similar things earlier. I would say Ableton to me is a playground. Like it's just a joyful, playful space for me, playing with sound. Pro Tools is a word processor. We can get the work done. You just need it. We get the work done. Ableton is joyful, playful space in my world. That's how I think of it.
Yeah, I love that. And yeah, both of you were talking about the same, like how they started, which kind of completely like it describes which is best for which kind of operating style or musical creation style, which is really, really nice. So one of the huge benefits to recording from home is you don't have to eat up all of your studio time that you're, paying for, and you just have the ability to just do as many takes as you want or as you need. Do you find that there's a DAW or a kind of a process within a DAW that helps to streamline the process of doing multiple takes and editing those takes to, I guess, get the best one or layer them in a way?
Do you want to take this, Sonia, or should I?
Sure. I mean, I know that Ableton has been doing a lot just for that purpose. Again, to exist within that playful mindset, right? Because if you're in a playful mindset, you don't want to be like, oh, I need to stop, go back, and then arm record, do it again. And I'm not sure if this exists in the other DAWs in Pro Tools or Logic. I'm actually not sure. I can't say because I haven't tried it in those other DAWs. But Ableton has built a sort of a resave process where you can record over the same track again and again, and it'll save all the tracks behind it. And I feel like I don't use that a lot because it doesn't go with my process, but it does serve a lot of other producers or singers who are just like, oh, retake. Oh, what was that? It kind of sounded better 3 takes ago. Now I can go back and listen to that take. And they're not constantly doing this repeating thing of having to stop, like arm record, go back, even though it's not that many steps, but I know Ableton has built itself in that capacity.
The first DAW to do that was Pro Tools.
Okay.
And they used a weird term called playlist. And it was when it first started, it was kind of amazing. The idea that you have many options or alternatives on the same track. And Pro Tools call it playlist. And where it's kind of amazing with Pro Tools is doing like playlists for an entire drum kit, where you have 10 microphones and you want to take multiple takes of each of them.
Right.
And that's where like Pro Tools shines. Logic also has that function. They call it like quick swipe comping. So you hear the term comp. This confused the heck out of me when I first heard it. COMP. It's a composite. So you're doing many versions of, say, like a vocal, and you want to composite the best parts of each. It's a comp, and you're comping, and you're sending people comps. And what do you think about my comp? Is that the best comp? I need another comp. It's like this word just gets flown around. And you're talking about remote production. I'm always asking for a next whatever. That's what it is.
Wow. And yeah, in terms of remote production, okay, yeah. Wow.
So yeah, Logic's comping is kind of stunning. It's kind of amazing. It does a great job of it. The interface is super easy to use and it's wonderful. Just like everything else, Pro Tools is very like, in Pro Tools, you assume there's a different person. You assume there's someone dedicated to manning Pro Tools while everyone else is recording. And so they're doing things like naming every playlist as it goes. Take 1, take 2, best take, minor take. So there's an assumption there's a person there managing it all, naming things well. And in that structure, it's super useful. When you're by yourself, it's just a lot of work to manage it all. Logic's new take functions are amazing. They're so good. They work well, and it's like everything in Ableton is just enough without the extra tools. Yeah, but they all have
That
that
sounds
now, and it's
awesome.
great. Yeah.
Sonia, you were like speaking to my whole life. I just released an album and I was in the studio and did like 8 takes. And then I'm like, wait, what was number 2?
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Ashley was like, oh my God. But she had it in Pro Tools and it was already there. But there are people, and to my next question, I do a lot of throat clearing, a lot of laughs in between
hmm
takes. Like that is me all day. Do you find that Loudon, like you said, is Logic great for kind of editing those out like very like strategically, or do you find that there's a DAW, Sonia, that, you know, makes that process easier for people like me who just have a ton all through everything?
So in my experience with vocalists there are vocalists who are just like, I know Pro Tools, I know Ableton, I will send you that VO today. And then for vocalists who are not as familiar with recording, I want to say again, GarageBand, I've rarely experienced vocalists having a lot of problems with GarageBand, because it is just very user friendly, I have to say, and I don't have to coach them too much into to doing too much. There have been mistakes, of course. Everyone makes mistakes with GarageBand. I've had, like I hear the metronome, like I heard your other take, and that's just an export issue. So we can, if anyone has any questions on just how to export that's also a couple step process. But yeah, in my experience, GarageBand has been the most approachable for singers.
Awesome.
And then in terms of doing
Yeah,
retakes,
okay.
I'm not sure if GarageBand, maybe Loudon knows if they have the retake function that makes it easier like Logic does, but I'm not sure.
I'm not sure. I think I would imagine yes, but I'd have to go examine that. I'm sure someone in the our broadcast can answer. I don't know. I'd have to. I haven't used. So honestly, what I often do is prepare a session just for a vocalist so they can record in GarageBand, and then I can bring that into my Logic session. So GarageBand projects can be opened in Logic, and so it can be nice to be able to just send someone a prepared section, just has the background track, record your vocal. What I'll usually do is because I don't know about the many takes, I'll just make like 10 tracks. I just name them take 1, take 2, take 3, etc. Send it to the vocalist, and they'll just record multiple takes and just send that back to me. I'll open it up in Logic and then do my editing there. So that process works and that's a good template, Kristen. Exactly. Just like set up your template with all those tracks made ahead of time, then you don't have to worry about all the little details as you go.
Mm-hmm. And
Awesome.
something I've been hearing in recordings, maybe this is from Billie Eilish or Kali Uchis, just hearing these sort of very cameo approach to vocal recording where the background noise is part of the song, so don't be afraid if you're like laughing before a take, like don't be afraid that that's there, like I feel like there's sort of an opening of mind now in terms of like what's going into the final product, and it could be a laugh. Timberland was the guy who made breaths into beats. And now like
Michael Jackson didn't do that. He didn't.
Okay.
He didn't make...
Okay, we have a debate. That's true.
Who did it first? Yeah.
Well,
Britney Spears,
Absolutely.
her breaths are part of her beats,
Yeah.
man. Yeah, it's great.
That's very true.
Well, yeah,
That's
I
awesome.
discovered I only like came to the realization that was happening when Justin Timberland was making the Timberlake record. Because I got to hear like the breath solo. Somehow I got to hear the stems from one of the tracks, and I heard the breath solo, and it was chopped up and like layered 5 times, and I was like, that is amazing. Who like usually you want to get the breaths out of the singer. Yeah. So
Not make them louder,
so
right?
but as long as you want to be aware of room tone, you don't want room tone in there. Yeah, you don't want an airplane. MIA has helicopters in her tracks, but there's that's like on purpose, and it's a better quality sound of a helicopter. It wasn't like there when she was recording in some
By mistake.
terrible recording studio probably. So yeah, so there's like this open of mind when you're recording, and there might be weird sounds in it, but that maybe they're okay, maybe they're not, you know.
I love that.
Awesome.
The one advice I
Yeah.
would give to that, you know, I think about this all the time when working with a lot of, like working with vocalists or sax players. There's always weird noises, like auxiliary noises. Just put them in time. Like if you breathe in time, if you breathe just on beat 2, or you scratch a guitar on right with the snare drum, it just becomes part of the track. It's the thing that you're not thinking about, right? Or if you just like click on the sax notes between every take, which a lot of people do, just do it in time. Just do it in time, and then it's like it's part of the beat, and it's awesome.
That is a great technique. I'll start clearing my throat on the downbeat. Awesome. We are about to jump into the Q&A section, but before we do, is there any really kind of beneficial tool that you want to share with the audience that will lend to a great in-home recording session or easy in-home recording session in a DAW? Loaded question.
Yeah, a bunch of blogs
No pressure
came to my mind. A bunch of YouTube channels came to my mind. I'm subscribed to several music producers. I've been following a lot of Kenny Beats live streams. I don't know if anyone knows about Kenny Beats, but he's been doing some incredible live streams. He's been doing collaborations through a live stream. A lot of these things take place on Twitch. A lot of these producers are taking advantage of Twitch and YouTube. And believe it or not, if you love a song, there's like this song that you love, please like look up, you know, now everyone's talking about metadata, and that could be a whole other panel about like when you're making your songs and you're attaching your metadata, but you're looking you're looking for the producer or the engineers of that song. And some of these engineers have YouTube streams, and they're just like telling you all their stuff, like their plugin chains. Like, this is my vocal plugin chain for Dua Lipa. I think Ian Kirkpatrick gave us a plugin chain that he used for Dua Lipa. So I love just, you know, being like hearing something and I'm just like, oh yay, but I get to also like stalk that producer or stalk that engineer and see exactly what he or she did for those sounds and yeah. So that's like one big driving force, and that's very recent for me because the pandemic has encouraged, I think, a lot of producers to connect with their audience through Twitch. And yeah,
Very
true.
I
love that. My advice, honestly, is really listen carefully to what you're recording. It's so common that we record a vocal and we are so focused on our performance and on how we're doing this thing, and we just get it out and we haven't thought about like, what does the room sound around me? And if we just say, I'm going to spend, you know, a couple days, just an hour a day, and just try setting up in different rooms and try in different locations, and listening carefully, you're going to tune your ear to the stuff around your vocal, because you'll have that same performance. You'll have practiced it numerous times, which might be useful, you know, to practice a little. And you tune your ear to those other things that aren't your voice or aren't your violin or aren't your bass. And you will find that you can make your recording sound so much better if you just change the acoustics of the space. If you're choosing where you're recording it, it's the biggest factor. And so get in that closet and try it, as funny as it feels. You know, go in your bathroom and try to record, and you'll find that has a bigger impact than everything. It also is fun. And if I was to give one resource to check out just for like fun, cool thing to do, I would look at Sylvia Massey's book, Recording Unhinged. Sylvia Massey is one of my favorite producers of all time. She's amazing. And she produced like a lot of Tools music. Like, so she's a really cool person. And her whole book, Recording Unhinged, is all about fun, creative, unusual recording techniques. Like recording with your headphones as a microphone, you know, recording through a garden hose, and all these little things that just make the process fun. And if the process is fun, what we create is naturally going to be so much better, you know? So she's amazing. And that's the book I would check out, Recording Unhinged.
Yes, I love both of those. Like one half of the time, like when you're listening to songs, you're like, oh my gosh, if I could only make this sound, or oh my gosh, if I could only figure out how this was created. And now, like you said, with metadata, boom, you know who made it, see if they're sharing their secrets or who's following them, and see who's on these platforms just telling all. And that book, I
Super
can't
fun.
wait
Yeah,
to get it
let's check that
because
out.
I mean, one bedroom apartment trying to find some quiet space is a task in and of itself, but
Hmm.
definitely down to figure out how to make those things work and record in really cool ways because it can get daunting when you think about it in a very like strict, I have to be here, I have to do this, it has to sound this way. So I appreciate both of you for these like opening of the mind techniques and things to just get started and get creative and just make it happen, which is what home recording is all about. That was awesome. So we're going to jump into the Q&A. We got questions, tons of questions coming through from the
Yeah, I
audience,
see some
and I see
amazing
you guys
questions.
in the chat. Thank you. I hope you guys enjoy the music. And we will also put those the connections to Loudon and Sonia if you guys want to share how to connect. We can do that as well toward the end because everybody wants to hear more about what you guys have got to share, and I'm one of them. So, our first question is: I have been a songwriter and touring artist for the last 10 years. I'm ready to start learning production so that I can start producing my own albums rather than hiring producers for every album. I am going to use Ableton Live. What would you say is the best way to get started learning Ableton besides just diving in? Loaded question.
I have an amazing place. So one of my best friends, her name is Erin Barra. She makes beats. She started Beats by Girls. We should definitely give a shout out to Erin and Beats by Girls. She's amazing. She has a course on Coursera, which is free on how to on how to use Ableton Live, and it's stunning. It's amazing. So if you want to chat a bit, Sonia, I will find the link and I can post it here. But that would be the place. Erin Barra's Coursera course, from my perspective.
No,
Awesome.
I agree. I got to go to a couple of their meetings in New York, and I freaking love Beats by Girls. And yeah, I agree. The Coursera is really straightforward. I only took it because I wanted to just see Erin in action, and I feel like I do know Ableton, of course, but there's always going to be more that you're going to need to learn. Like you can make a whole song in Ableton, but there's still so many possibilities. But yeah, I would also highly recommend Erin Barra. Yeah.
I mean,
Awesome. That
I
sounds
don't
great.
want to
Start with that.
plug my stuff, but maybe I do. They're Berklee College of Music, the Berklee Online School. Aaron and I have made a series of 5 courses for Berklee Online. They're more expensive, but you get one-on-one instruction with the teacher every week. And they're really, really well done. I mean, we put our heart into it and we really care about it. And so there's just fantastic. I'm teaching in that's the Berklee Online School. It's worth checking out if you want to take it to the next level. And the cool thing is you can see, do I like how Aaron teaches? And then if you do, you can spend a little more money and get a little more private time with us.
Mm-hmm. And also,
Yes.
I've been a part of a community called the Transmute Academy, and it's run by Laura Escudé. She's like she used to be a
One of
sales
my
rep
heroes.
for Ableton, and yeah, she's done a lot of work for Ableton. She's been with that like community for ever since Ableton was in its very early stages. So she has something called the Transmute Academy, and there are payable options, but there are also free courses. And a lot of her, she teaches you how to record, like very basics, but she's also very passionate about the live performance factor when it comes to using Ableton to perform live. So if you're doing live streams, this would be a really great option for you to check out her streams, check out her classes, check out her Instagram. She shows stuff for free on Instagram. Yeah.
Awesome. Love that. Yes, absolutely. And Ableton is, for me, it was not a plug and play, open it up, figure all the things out. I had to like sit it to the side for a minute. So yes, please take advantage. If you're looking to dive into Ableton, take advantage of all the how-tos because it is definitely a beast, a wonderful beast, but a beast nonetheless. Not like plug and play like GarageBand. So do yourself a favor and just ease your way into it by learning from the pros, which is wonderful.
Yeah. And
Awesome.
definitely, yeah, I think community is really important too, because sometimes you'll be stopped with something, like let's say your CPU is just like charging like 200%. Like I remember being so stuck with that. And, you know, I didn't reach out to anyone for some reason. I wasn't like I in my live audio engineering, I had like this community in live audio engineering, but then I was like, oh, now I'm doing recording stuff. I don't know who to reach out to, and it was a matter of you know, just turning on and off a couple buttons, lowering my buffering, and then maybe freezing and flattening my tracks, and that made all the difference. And then it was gone, you know. But it took me a while to like reach out to my community, be like, hey, I actually have this problem, like, and it's a legitimate problem. So I think having a community, and that's what Beats by Girls is a great community for that, and then also the Transmute Academy. And if you're just on their Facebook group, you know, then you have access to that.
And everyone in our chat now is like, freeze, buffer size. What were those? How do I solve that? What are these things I need? Buffer size is a huge one, and freezing tracks. Yes, those are the answers right there.
Awesome. Love that. Our next question is, any thoughts on Cubase? I've never personally
Cubase is amazing.
Yeah.
Cubase is amazing. I would put it on the category of like Pro Tools, in that it is super capable of everything. I find that the people that are really taking most advantage of Cubase, in my experience, have been people doing orchestral mock-ups. So doing like large scale orchestral mock-up for a movie or for a video game. I think Cubase has all the tools, like Pro Tools, to work in this really big, complex structures, but then also has all the great MIDI functions and capabilities of things like Logic. So it's like a really big, full-featured powerhouse of a place. I also find that it's, I don't know why, but more common in Europe than it is in America. I don't know why that is, but that's what I'm finding. Yeah.
Awesome. Next question. We're just going to go lightning and just answer as many as we can. Any thoughts on AI mastering services like Lander?
Oh, I'm not
Your
familiar
facial
with
expressions.
Lander. I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with Lander. I do know that doesn't SoundCloud have like an AI mastering feature too? I know it does. I haven't seen Lander. I'm so sorry. I can't speak to that.
Oh, no worries. It was just a general question.
I love the, I mean, I love the idea. The honest truth is, I think I'm required to do all the mastering myself. The idea that there's a separate person that's doing that, and it's this thing you have to go through, it seems to be fading. I'm required to do my own mastering myself. The benefit I've found in a mastering engineer is someone telling me, Loudon, you have to remix this. It's that, right? So it's not so much what they do with EQ and what they do with compression. It's what they tell me I did wrong. And all those online AI things, they're not doing that, right? They're applying some compression and applying some EQ. I need, if I want someone to tell me what I did wrong and help me fix it.
Love that. Yeah, most definitely. All right, next question. If GarageBand is the easiest DAW for vocalists, then would Logic be the best one to use because it's just like GarageBand with more options?
Yeah. I would say it's a great transition. GarageBand to Logic. They're made by the same people. So yeah.
Awesome. Straightforward. Is any DAW better suited to be used with a specific operating system?
That's a great question. I want to say just being in the community of music producers, Mac has always been the most friendly for Pro Tools, Ableton, Logic. I think Fruity Loops is best built for PCs, but and I know for a fact that I'm still struggling with this. I can't get the new MacBook because it's not gonna run with my Pro Tools. So I'm waiting for the Mac to, but that's such a great question, because a lot of the solutions when your DAW is like just doing really weird, mysterious things, sometimes it has to do with your operating system. So you want to like investigate. Sometimes I look at Reddit. Sometimes I just go to the manufacturer website, like the Avid website or the Ableton website, and they'll actually like, you know, address that right away, because I mean, that's part of their responsibility as what they do is to make sure, okay, is this going to be like, they're actually talking to Apple, like, is this going to be okay with that new operating system? No, yes. And then they'll try to tweak things. And that's why, you know, they released a beta version. They released the beta version of 11 and there were problems. And then they released the official one. And I haven't seen any problems with the official release. So, but that's like such a great question. I love that you're thinking on those terms.
Absolutely. Awesome. Next question. I'm buying a new computer, similar. So what specs do I need to think about? If you can lend any info.
This is a tricky one right now. I'm currently buying computers to set up a school, and it's really tough. And Sonia brings up the big question right now are the new M1 Macs. And the challenge here is what we always would say is 64 gigabytes of RAM. Like, you want all the RAM you can get, and you want big hard drives, and that was like the answer. The challenge is the new M1 Macs handle RAM differently. And so it looks like a small amount, but the computers are blazing fast, like kind of stunning. And so it's like when I don't know, does anyone deal with like moving like with wattage on light bulbs, moving to LED where nothing like made sense anymore, right? Like it's such low wattage, but it's so bright. Like, what's going on? Because we changed paradigm, and we're in that shift in Mac right now. Everything's going to come around. These new Macintoshes, they're amazing. The M1 minis are stunning. Everything's starting to work. Pro Tools is always the holdout and is always the tough one. So it's a tricky moment. I would go with the M1 stuff. It's the way of the future. And the biggest thing, silence. So I don't know, Sonia, if you've dealt with just the sound of your laptop and the fans while you're recording.
Yep.
They're so loud. The M1, like the Mac Mini, no fan. So this is why like they're so amazing for music production. Where we're coming from is that's a silent computer. So I can be right near it and I can record. I can't record near my laptop. It's so difficult. So we're at this cool paradigm shift. If you can put off waiting for a computer till like September, I think I would kind of just let things get through this state a little bit, and I would want to jump on the M1 stuff. I would not want to invest in something before that. I want to jump onto this new system. Would be my take, but you got to wait a little bit.
Yeah, but I love that you said that, because like I'm the one also waiting. Like I was ready to give up this computer I'm using right now, and then I was hearing all these like, oh no, like I can't make my new record on this new computer. Oh no, like from another musician.
Everything's
like,
working now.
I can't use Avid. Oh my gosh.
Pro Tools is the one thing.
Ableton's
it's working
only
great.
For Pro Tools. For Ableton, I think you're okay to go. If you're
totally
not
fine.
If you're not going to do Pro Tools, you should be fine. You can get like the new MacBook Air. You could probably grab onto any of those right now. If you're looking for something right now, like you have to do something.
GarageBand Logic, that's made by Apple. Those are killing it on all the M1 stuff. So if you're in the Logic, GarageBand, Apple ecosystem, M1, go for it. It's going to be made. This new iMacs that just came out looks stunning, and a 4.5K monitor. I mean, come on, it's like stunning.
Yeah. So short answer, yeah. If you're doing Pro Tools, be careful. Anything outside, you're good. Yeah. Which is always the answer, it seems, Sonia, isn't it? For Pro Tools? If you're doing Pro Tools, be careful. If you're doing anything else, it's great. That's yeah.
Awesome. Next question, and when we might be able to get to one other after this, but what do you think the impact of these DAWs and the emergence of the artist producer will be on the professional producer? So do you get the question?
I understand that question. Let me
repeat
it back. Let me repeat it back just to make sure. But yeah, I think the question is, are producers going to be extinct now that artists are producing their own music? I think that's the question.
I think that is a perfect summary of the question.
Yeah. And I don't know. Like the first thing that came to my mind when you were asking that was, I think producers are becoming artists. I'm seeing producers like Bauer DJ Bauer, he's a record producer. He just released his own solo album last year. And I was like, why isn't anyone listening to this? Why isn't this on the billboards? You know, because like I'm obsessed with this producer. And but he's doing it. He's his own artist too. But that's a good question. Like, will there be record producers? Will there, like, what? And I don't know. Every producer I follow, like Mark Ronson, even, he does his own stuff. Like, I actually don't know a producer who isn't doing. But that's a good question. Will that producer role be extinct? Yeah. What do you think, Loudon?
I guess we don't know.
I'm going to keep on producing other artists. I think it comes down to what do you want to do? I think it's just opening up the options. If you want to do that, do it. Prove you can do it. You know, I do think the distinctions vanish. Like, we now have the opportunity to do all these things that we love. I love producing other artists. I love supporting other artists. I don't need to have a brand around myself, and I want to do that. I'm going to keep doing that. But I think there's lots of opportunities to do everything. I think it's possibilities. I think that the coolest thing is I can go directly to an audience, and I can cut out all these other people, you know, so the economics can change. If I want to go directly to an audience member, I can, which is very cool. But
That's
I
awesome.
don't know. Producer.
No worries. You know, we don't know the future, but you know, we all got skill sets and we do what we do.
That's a good question.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, we have come to the end of our in-session time together. This has been absolutely incredible. I've learned a ton. Thank you for sharing all of your knowledge base and tips and tricks. I mean, this was incredible. Thank you, Loudon and Sonia.
Oh, Sonia, it was great to meet you. Christian, thank you. Awesome host. This was so comfortable and easy. I loved it.
Kristen, you've been awesome.
Awesome. Oh, listen, I'm just absorbing all the info. So I appreciate you both. Thank you all for joining in, for tuning in, for for asking all these wonderful questions and all of your support. Super huge shout out to you all. And also a very, very cool gift. Our friends at Berklee Online are offering a 4-week Ableton Live Fundamentals course for free. So you all will get that link in our post-webinar email. So look out for that if you want to dive into that. And we will also make sure that you all stay connected with Loudon and Sonia. My name is Kristen. This is So Far in Session, and I am super excited and hope to see you again soon.
Keep on making music, guys.